Time to talk some Jays. We touched on it off of the top, but they're kind of starting to turn a corner a little bit.
Is
here,
that corner
Sharms.
being turned? Is
They
it being
swept the
turned, or are
Mets?
we
What?
approaching the corner? I think we're still approaching the corner.
It's a long roundabout. It's like the train that's
It's
going through the tunnel. You can't see any light
no,
at the end, but it could be peeking through a little bit, I think.
maybe, but we've been down that road
I know.
before.
I know.
Trains, roads,
Are
corners.
we done with
It's a
the
theme here.
are we done with the it's too early talk?
Yeah, it's not early.
It's not early anymore.
No, it's
No.
not late.
Well, they won 4 in a row, 6 of their last 7, 2.5 games back of the Houston Astros for wild card spot, who they face tonight. 4-game set goes down at the Rogers Center. Let's bring in our next guest, Jennifer Piacenti of Sports Illustrated and Sirius XM Radio. Let me ask you, are the Jays finally turning a corner?
I think they are finally turning a corner. Look, they're 7-3 in their last 10. Astros are also kind of turning a corner. So I think this is going to be a fantastic series this week. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's important for the Jays. I mean, if they can win this thing, who knows? Maybe take a lead in the wild card or just get into a wild card spot, which would be so important. And then you're heading into not a favorable schedule, but you're missing out on some AL East opponents. At least I think it's Boston and the Orioles, the only AL East opponents they face up until the trade deadline. Okay, so we have Alek Manoah on the mound for the Jays. He had a horrible May. Do you have any idea how do you fix Manoah and what's really wrong with him?
I don't know how you fix Manoah. His ERA, his expected ERA is even worse than his actual ERA. It's truly amazing. And I think that we expected some regression based on the banning of the shift or the limitations on the shift this season, but not to this degree. Obviously, he's walking way too many batters. He has command issues. I think he tried to change up some of his pitch arsenal. I don't think that's going to work tonight versus the Astros, unfortunately. So I don't know what to do about Manoah. I think it's a bit of a mystery. Right now, I can't even start him on my fantasy teams, which is quite a bummer because I really, really love the guy, and I hope he gets back on track.
So Kikuchi had a decent outing the other night. If your fifth starter, which is Kikuchi, is able to do what he's been doing so far, does that give Manoah a little bit more time and the Jays more time for him to figure it out?
Oh, I mean, I don't know that they have any other options. Of course, they're going to trust him. This guy has an incredible pedigree. He was phenomenal last season. You're not just going to give up on him. They just have to figure out what it is. And Kikuchi has been holding up his own. And in fact, the Toronto Blue Jays have, I think, the 7th best ERA overall as a pitching staff. If you just remove Alek Manoah from that, they're probably top 4. Wow. They're really good. They're good hitting wise. They're good pitching wise. They just happen to be in a very, very stacked division, as you guys mentioned. And if they were playing, say, in the AL Central, I mean, bye-bye Twins, right?
Yeah, 27-12 outside the AL East this season. It's amazing, Jen, how narratives shift, isn't it? Before the season, Manoah was the least of the Jays' problems. The issues were Barrios and Kikuchi, and here we are now, and they're the strength in many regards so far. What is the perception of the Jays south of the border? Are they seen as a legitimate World Series contender, or at least were they before the season began?
Oh, they're absolutely seen as legitimate World Series contender. Now, they're not my pick. I personally think that they don't have enough experience to get it done. I think they freeze when they get to the postseason. I don't think they're there yet. But a lot of people had them as their favorites, and a lot of people still have them as their favorite for a futures bet because there's a ton of value on it. And listen, it doesn't matter if they don't win the AL East. All they need to do is get into the postseason and get hot at the right time. I mean, the 2019 Washington Nationals proved that if no other team ever did. So it's just getting hot at the right time. And do they have the potential? Oh, yeah. I mean, that lineup is stacked, and the pitching, especially if Alek Manoah can get back on track, can absolutely be dominant.
If you look at the AL standings, the entire American League, they're 6th, 9th in the MLB. So it's not a complete disaster. You look at some of these numbers, like, oh, they're pretty good. They just got to figure it out. Let's talk about their opponents, the Houston Astros. Probably haven't got off to the start that they were expecting. What are you seeing from the Astros right now that maybe we didn't see last season?
You know, it's funny. They haven't gotten off to the start we've been expecting, but they're still on pace for 96 wins. Wow, yeah. So just let that sink in. They obviously started with a bit of a, problem with no Michael Brantley, no Jose Altuve. And then, of course, they got hit really hard when they lost both Jose Urquidy and Luis Garcia within 48 hours. So they are strapped right now. They lost Justin Verlander in the offseason. However, somehow, some way, they still have the lowest ERA in all of MLB. So these Astros, they just keep getting it done. The difference this year, I guess, is it feels even more like a team effort there is no really one big star. Yes, Framber is great. Framber is in the AL Cy Young conversation already, but Christian Javier is holding his own too. And then it's everybody else just holding up their end. And even recently, Corey Joltz has been impressive. Yanier Diaz has done incredible things. Jake Myers, Chas McCormick, everybody's battling it out. Now, it's true, Yordan Alvarez is, kind of incredible, especially with runners in scoring position. So he stands out a bit, but you're still getting a team effort from Kyle Tucker. Alex Bregman's coming on hot lately. And finally, you've got Jose Altuve back. With Jeremy Pena in the 2-hole, Jose Altuve at the top of the lineup, you're getting a lot more production. And look, we also can't poo-poo Mauricio Dubon, who had the best batting average on the team for most of the season up to this point.
Jose Abreu, he seems to be struggling. The former MVP, similar to maybe Vladdy Guerrero, who's struggling, started turning around a little bit. But what's going on with him? I mean, he's hitting just 213, 273 OBP, just one home run this season. What have you seen with him that tells you it's just not all clicking right now?
Super frustrating. Jose Abreu is a notorious slow starter, but it's kind of time for that to turn back on. Now, he has been hitting the ball a lot harder in the last week or two, which has been good. His max exit velocity still in the 78th percentile of the league, but every other stat, no bueno. So I don't know, it actually kind of goes back into last season. Obviously, the Astros saw something in him, were willing to give him a 3-year contract, but they also gave that contract when they didn't have a general manager. So there's a lot of questions in Houston about, was this the right decision letting Yuli Gurriel walk? That being said, I do think Abreu will come back up to a higher level. He did finally hit his first home run last week, which is a big deal. He is hitting the ball hard. Eventually, he's going to improve. He can't get much worse. He just can't get much worse.
Back with the pitchers now tonight. Brandon Bilek in there. He's been great this year. 3.19 ERA. Just 13 major league starts though. Is that sustainable? Do you think his pitching so far?
No, I don't think it's sustainable, and I think he can easily get exposed tonight by the Jays. And I believe the Jays are favored right now on the money line. Last I checked, -130. That being said, I would take the Astros for the value there. We can talk more about that later, because Alek Manoah might be even worse than Brandon Bilek tonight. And both teams are hot hitting right now. They've both been very good over the last 30 days of play. Bilek he's not really a starter, right? He's a long reliever, and they've had to stretch him out and use him as a starter. They never intended to use him as a starter. His expected ERA, I believe, is more like 5.5. Eventually, he will get exposed, but for the time being, he's allowed 2 or fewer runs in all but one of his starts. So hopefully he can keep it going a little bit longer until they can get a little bit more healthy or make a trade for another arm.
Yeah, I'm just over on FanDuel right now, and it looks like the Astros -102. It's obviously moved, in the Jays -116. The Jays might have maybe a shortened bullpen tonight. So I wonder how much stress that's going to put on Manoah and maybe John Schneider to see, maybe I need to leave this guy out there a little bit longer. And that, Jen, could probably play into the Astros winning this game, right?
It probably could. And, the Astros will probably have to go to their bullpen early as well, because Bilek, again, you can't expect him to be a Framber and go a full 9. But the Astros bullpen is slightly better and should be pretty well rested. They haven't been overtaxed lately. So, yeah, that's why I am giving the advantage to Houston tonight. It's a 4-game series. I actually think this splits. I think it goes 2-2. I think these teams are really evenly matched. But Houston is better when they're on the road, and they play better versus teams with better than 500 records. And the Toronto Blue Jays certainly qualify as a really good team. I think these teams are such a great matchup. I think it will be a split series.
Speaking of narratives, Brandon Belt obviously wasn't really a factor in the spring training through the injury recovery. First month of the season, just terrible. He's lost it. It's a waste of money. 484 on base percentage since May the 5th, tops in Major League Baseball. Is that sustainable for the veteran?
I mean, here's what's interesting about Brandon Belt. He always had the kind of power that was like, I would really like to see him out of the San Francisco Giants stadium, because it should play better in another stadium, the kind of power he has. And it should play well in Rogers Center. And look, if your teammates chanting MVP helps you get there, whatever it takes, I wish that he could maybe pass that along to Jose Abreu. Maybe Jose Abreu needs some MVP chants, and that would fix everyone. So power, positive thinking. Brandon Belt can only get better, in my opinion. I do think he's still got something left in the tank.
Yeah, he's got sneaky power, right? He hit one dead
Yeah.
center at Citi Field yesterday. I was like, holy, this guy's got
Crazy
some
power.
left in the tank for sure. Okay, I want to touch on some Cy Young futures. I mean, if you look at the Houston Astros best ERA in baseball, the question is which Astros Blue Jays pitcher would you put your money on? Right now, you've Valdez plus 700, Javier 8,000, Hunter Brown 6,000, and Gosman 800, Bassett plus 8,000. If you're looking to sprinkle something on one of those players, who would it be?
It would be Framber. I mean, it can't be Bassett. I don't think Bassett can keep it up. I don't think Javier. Javier basically has 2 pitches. He's awesome. He's amazing. But Framber's the guy. Framber is the kind of guy that pitches you a complete game. Everything about him is a stud, and he's just on another level this year. I also like Gaussman, but I think ultimately Framber is going to be the one that gets it done of this group. I would go 7-1. It's a pretty decent payout.
Do you have any other pitchers not who play for the Stros or the Blue Jays that you would like?
I feel that the pitching market this year is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
It's been very uneven. We all thought McClanahan was going to be it. Then we thought it was going to be Spencer Strider. Garrett Cole's even been uneven. So there's no one that I particularly love in the Cy Young race at all. I think Framber is probably actually my favorite. And I don't think it's just because I watch a lot of Houston Astros ball games.
I don't mind the 8-1 or the 7-1. Okay, before we let you go, I saw you put up an article on Sports Illustrated with your best bet tonight, which involves the the St. Louis Cardinals.
Okay, so St. Louis Cardinals and Texas Rangers. Over the past 30 days, St. Louis Cardinals, 4th most runs per game. Texas Rangers, most runs per game. I mean, they are absolutely astonishing. They've scoring more than 6.5 runs per game over the past 30 days and like 6.4 runs per game this season. I mean, it's absolutely astounding. They are mashing the ball. Now, add that to the fact that games at Globe Life Field average more than 11.5 runs per game. The line is at 9.5. You got Martin Perez, who's been hammered lately. The Cards are going to get to him. They hit lefties really well, especially Arenado, Tommy Edman, Paul Goldschmidt. And then on the other side, you've got Adam Wainwright. And I love Adam Wainwright. He's an incredible veteran, but he has not looked right since coming back from the IR. And these Texas Rangers, they're going to mash tonight. Take the over 9.5 runs.
I like it. Yeah, Wainwright, better national anthem singer than pitcher this season. I think that can be the case. Jennifer, thanks so much for doing this. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.